Okay, cool. So yeah, so at the top, we obviously have the performance. I think this is a big part of what this is. So usually, from my experience with like performance apps, performances are often enactments of the method. So your method is rage, right? And you're being incredibly rageful in the performance. I think that definitely comes across. But I think one really amazing thing you do here is you also set up claims you're going to make later and arguments that you will use that you will leverage to like make your ballot key more. And so you'll say stuff and you reference things in your performance. Like judges have implicit biases against Latino debaters. So was that a deliberate strategy you made when you crafted your performance, was to maybe like add on to the kind of links that you're going to go for in the K proper?
I think for me at first, I was just listing out like all of the gripes I had with public forum, right? And one of the biggest ones are like implicit biases that judges have towards Latino debaters. But I think ultimately, like as we started running it and also like learning more about the performance, it did become a way of responding to many arguments about like who's the better debater, or like the judge needs to evaluate this like holistically, and arguments like that, because it does play out later in round when you're considering like what implicit biases does this judge have, and how will you know that they're not like implicitly biased against certain debaters, even if they might not be like racist on the outside,
Yeah.
right?
Do you think this is like a strategic way to use performances that a lot of Ks have, is to use the performance in kind of like a dual fashion, right? To present the method, but to also present some of the warrants you're going to give later in speech.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a good method of not just like helping fuel the performance and making it like, I guess, more rageful in this specific example, but it also helps like later in the round, and it's a strategic way to like get the ballot and to like advance
Yeah.
the idea you're trying to spread.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh yeah, so I think in the round that we played, what ended up happening was they went for a roll of the ballot about who's the better debater, and we had all of this warrants that was Roberto just read. So all I had to do was just say, "Hey, Roberto told you all of this stuff that just flat out wasn't addressed in the previous speech." And like we didn't really like we prepped this entire critique out the night before the tournament. Like we didn't know like all of the potential that this critique could have in terms of like a strategic perspective. So like it was kind of like we were just learning like as every round went, like, oh, like okay, we can use this warrant, or this warrant helps like respond to these type of arguments. So it was like kind of cool like, to see like everything kind of unfolding. Whereas like
Yeah.
this is like round five, so it was like really like interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree that this specific performance fits super well into the round we're going to watch. And I think that makes the round just like so much of a better round.